Now, where does our bridge begin? We're not really sure. That's why it kind of peters off here. It may go as far west as the Jaffa Gate, which is that way. All right? We're planning on digging there, but it's going to take some time. The arch above your head is 1,300 years old. Now, this bridge had a rough life. This was a major route to get on the Temple Mount. Every time someone invaded and they wanted to protect the Temple Mount, why they just simply knocked the bridge down. And then they rebuilt it, and down and up and down and up. That's a lot of work. Why didn't they simply build a drawbridge? Well, there might be a couple reasons. Maybe 1,300 years ago they didn't know how. Maybe there was another reason. Now, on our Temple Mount, you can't really see, but hidden away in some of those buildings are things called mikvahs. Mikvahs were like small pools, and they were built to accumulate rainwater for ritual purification purposes. The high priest, before he performed certain parts of the ceremony, had to be ritually pure, so he would dip in a mikvah. Now, the mikvah has to be filled with rainwater, okay, but you cannot collect buckets of rainwater and dump them in the mikvah. The rainwater has to get there by itself. And in Jerusalem, for 6 to 7 months, the entire summer, there's no rain. Not to worry, a solution was found. 30 kilometers south of here, right outside Bethlehem, a stunning spring, which flows prolifically even at the end of a dry summer. They began building an aqueduct around fields, across valleys, and straight through mountains. This aqueduct carried water at a slope of less than 1 degree.
Wow.
For a length of close to 60 kilometers, back and forth and back and forth. It was functional for close to 2,000 years, and that's how I know so much about it. It's a stunning hike. You need a good guide to put all the pieces together, but of course the best part's going through the mountain. So, that aqueduct wound all the way around the old city. You can still see parts of it. Across our bridge and onto the Temple Mount. And that's why the bridge had to be rebuilt out of rock. You couldn't simply keep picking up a drawbridge because all that valuable water would have gone to waste.
Wow.
So, that's why they built this bridge. And if you look at those rocks, you see how close they are. There's no cement holding those rocks together. They're resting one on each other. And this bridge has withstood several very serious earthquakes. So you're standing in the safest place you probably could. All right. There's another arch of this bridge. If you look at the picture map again, right behind my back, slightly east of us. This bridge is going from west to east. This huge arch, a single arch, is called Wilson's Arch. Today, it's the women's section of the synagogue. For that's something we like to do in Israel, is take old buildings, make sure they're sturdy and safe, and give them a modern usage. Anybody who wants to pray here after the tour, just simply tell the guard you want to pray, come back in across the bridge, and into Wilson's Arch, which became infected with cholera. And there was a terrible plague. The Ottomans realized they needed some serious help, so they sent off to England and got back 2 engineers, Charles Wilson and Charles Warren. Wilson dug in by the western wall, found the arch, found the infected water, made some suggestions how to drain it, and went back home. Warren stayed. Warren had a quest. The city of David. Oh. Can you imagine? 150 years ago, something as important as the city of David had been forgotten. It was simply another dirt-covered, donkey-covered, cactus-covered hill like any other. Warren thought he might be able to locate it if he began digging on the Temple Mount. He had a permission slip from Queen Victoria. The Ottomans said, no! Well, Warren was 25. No meant nothing to him. So he began digging his shafts down beside the Temple Mount. 80, 90, 100 feet down, over and up inside. And at the bottom of all of these shafts, he found remains from the Second Temple period. Now the Ottomans really began thinking, how can we get rid of this pesky Brit? Charles Warren made it very easy for them, for he loved to explore. Here, and one fine day when he was down here with his crew, the Ottomans simply sealed off their exit.
Oh, wow.
No fans, no lights, no exit signs. They were getting a bit desperate. fact, the whole place was filled with dirt, not very pleasant dirt. Remember, we're under people's houses. They tried to get through that wall. They pulled out those 2 rocks. The room on the other side is just more walls and more arches. They came back in here, and somehow they realized that was the direction to go. And they exited through the very doorway where you began your tour. They survived, but they learned their lesson. If we want to keep digging, let's get away from the authorities. So they went south of the walls of the ancient city, and there they found it, the city of David. It's a good thing because they were running out of funds. They were told they had 1 week left to go before they had to come back to England. But they found it so they could keep digging. And the entire time they were digging, they were making incredible records of everything they saw. One of our archaeologists happened to be wandering through London, wandered into some random used bookstore, and there they were, Warren's 4 folios, which he bought and brought back. Now today, that is the only information we have about what is in the Temple Mount, because we are not allowed to dig there. So if you buy a modern book, of course the one I recommend is called Touching the Stones of Our Heritage, copyright 2006, it features 4 pages of Warren's stunning drawings of what's inside Herod's temple platform. Thank you, Charles Warren. He wasn't even Jewish. A stunning example of how Jews and Christians can work very nicely together for brilliant results, which is what we're going to be walking through. All right, above our heads, 1,300 years ago, this was raised for the last time. What happened 1,300 years ago? I'll give you some time to think about that. On top of this arch is the streak of the chain in the modern Muslim quarter. If you have a chance to be walking down that street, realize you're not walking on a street, you're walking on top of a stunning old bridge. What's below our feet? Well, Warren left behind one of his shafts. Here it is. And down at the bottom of the shaft, he got all the way down to bedrock. We have a 2,000-some-year-old mikveh built in the time of King Agrippus after Herod.
Wow.
And below that, part of a drainage ditch built by the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim, the guys that brought us Hanukkah. That's 2,200 years old, and bedrock is even still a bit below that.
Oh my God.
So there's your Jerusalem timeline. Bedrock, 2,200 years ago, all the way to above our heads. 2011 in the modern Muslim quarter. And you're right in the middle of all that time. Welcome. Questions?
Can you give us the orientation? Is it
West?
west to east, right? East, that's the west wall, right?
East. The western wall is east of us.
Right east of us. Okay,
Exactly.
So this is the ramp, right?
Exactly.
From the valley.
Jaffa Gate is that way. No, the valley is that
Run
way.
this way. So it's run through
North, south is the valley.
That's the north
Okay, so the western wall runs from the south to the north, beside the Tyropian Valley, which runs from the south to the north.
Isn't it a Hebrew valley?
This is west.
No? It's a different
The
valley.
Kidron Valley also runs from the... These are real seats, the only real seats of the tour. Welcome to our